Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're going to keep talking about Space Marines. This time moving into some different chapters. Some of, in my opinion, the more interesting ones. Starting with White Scars. Brash in manner and savage in appearance, the Space Marines of the White Scars chapter are known and feared throughout the galaxy. They are hunters without peer, using ultra-rapid deployment to ensure that the foe's first sight of them is also their last. When their prey is at hand, they strike with the speed of a lightning bolt, tearing into their foes with all of the tribal ferocity learned on their home world, and rejoicing in bringing swift death to the enemies of the Imperium. Such were the teachings of their Primarch, Yagatai Khan, and in the millennia since his disappearance, these doctrines have been honed in countless battles. The White Scars are fierce, battle-scarred warriors that hail from Chogoris, a feral, windswept planet. The controlled savagery of the White Scars is the heritage of both their Primarch, Yagatai Khan, and the wild people of Chogoris, whose constant warring ensures that only the strong and the ruthless survive. There is bravery and ferocity within the White Scars' hearts. The thirst for war grants them great power, but is always tempered by the sense of honor and justice embodied implacably by their Primarch. Yagatai Khan was the only warrior to have risen to such power that he could unite every one of the tribes of the Chogorian steppes. He achieved this before the Great Crusade reached Chogoris, and he was reunited with the Emperor. The lightning-fast hit-and-run method of war favored by the nomadic cavalry warriors of Chogoris was perfected by Yagatai Khan and served the White Scars Legion well following reunification with the Emperor. Under the command of their Primarch, the Great Khan, the White Scars went on to fight in some of the bloodiest battles of the Great Crusade. When word arrived of the War Master's treachery, the Great Khan returned to Terra, the White Scars arriving in time to stand before the traitors at the Imperial Palace. History records little of the Great Khan's actions during the Siege of Terra, but it is known that White Scar spikes raced down the Imperial Palace's rubble-strewn colonnades, their war cries mixing with the roar of engines as they rode full throttle to meet the traitors head-on. When the end of the Horus Heresy finally came, the White Scars emerged, bloodied but alive. They were at the forefront of the legions that pursued the defeated traitors into the Eye of Terror, for the White Scars are relentless in the hunt and rarely allow a defeated foe to slip away. Sat astride their powerful armored steeds, the White Scars hurtle into battle with their guns blazing. The enemies of humanity flee before them like hapless quarry before a hunter's hounds, but there can be no escape. Brotherhood of the Khans. During the Second Founding, Yagatai Khan was amongst those Primarchs who willingly embraced the wisdom of Guilliman's Codex Astartes. Ever since, the White Scars have adhered to the teachings of the Codex, but have maintained the long-ingrained traditions of their own culture alongside them. The White Scars refer to their companies as brotherhoods, and their captains as khans. There exists a strong sense of rivalry between the different brotherhoods, and when the entire chapter gathers for war, the khans often compete in tests of martial skill for the honor of leading the attack and being the first into the fray. The Space Marines of the White Scars display their dueling scars with as much pride as the tribal-derived markings painted upon their armor. Replicas of those carved into the Battle Brothers' flesh upon induction into the chapter. Evoking the mounted warriors of their heritage, each company maintains a high proportion of bikes and land speeders, and their infantry are almost always borne to battle by fast-moving vehicles or gunships. It is often said that the White Scars are born in the saddle, and are not at ease unless fighting on, in, or from an armored mount of some kind. In contrast, few White Scars Space Marines have ever entered service as a dreadnought, for to them the thought of spending an eternity sealed within a ceramite sarcophagus is a truly horrifying notion. The Long Hunt. The combat doctrines of the White Scars chapters still reflect those of the original Jogorian warrior tribes. Though ferocious on the attack, the White Scars are highly intelligent tacticians and masters of fieldcraft. Each battle brother draws on their savagery to hit their enemy with a peerless impact and frightening speed, but they are never reckless. Time spent on preparations is vital to their strategy, as they reconnoiter each target in depth and formulate detailed plans and contingencies, coordinating their strikes to ensure that maximum damage is done. In their many millennia of service, the White Scars have hunted the Emperor's foes from one end of the galaxy to the other, meeting every threat with blades in their hands and battle cries on their lips, defeating rebellions and invasions unnumbered in the name of the Emperor and of the Great Khan. The fate of the Great Khan. The ultimate fate of the White Scars Primarch Yagatai Khan remains a mystery. In Quanshu, the fortress monastery of the White Scars, located in the heart of the Kumkarta Mountains on Jogoris, the deeds of the chapter's history are documented. It is clear from inscriptions in Quanshu's Great Hall of Records that Yagatai Khan led the White Scars for over 70 years following the Horus Heresy, carving his legend into the annals of the Imperium to be. After this, whilst pursuing a mighty Xenos enemy across the galaxy, he and his first brotherhood vanished without a trace. None can say what befell the Primarch, if he was lost in another dimension, slain or captured at the hands of an alien warlord. But the White Scars believe he still hunts across the galaxy and beyond, in pursuit of his greatest foes. The White Scars thus continue to fight in Yagatai's name, destroying the enemies of the Emperor in preparation for the day when the Great Khan completes his consummate hunt. They believe that one day Yagatai will return to them in glory, once again taking up spear and scimitar to lead his chosen warriors in the vanguard of the next great crusade to unify the galaxy. Imperial Fists. Actually, you know what? Scratch that. We're gonna go back and talk about White Scar's Successor Chapters. Tests conducted after the Horus Heresy showed the White Scar's gene seed to be stable. When the Legion was split, it sired a number of Successor Chapters. All adhere to the aggressive and bold traditions of the Great Khan. Additionally, even Successor Chapters that settled far across the galaxy from Chogoris showed a predisposition towards recruiting from the hunting tribes on feral worlds. Some of the Successor Chapters have separated themselves and work in isolation. However, some chapters, especially those of the Second Founding, maintain regular contact with their progenitors. Stormlords. As Second Founding successors of the White Scars chapter, the Stormlords can trace their history back to a time when Yagatai Khan hunted across the stars. The Stormlords have always maintained a strong sense of rivalry with the White Scars. They frequently compete with their forebearers for glory, and have been known to go to reckless lengths in order to emerge victorious. They are well known for the ferocity with which they hunt orc waws. Solar Hawks. The Solar Hawks are from an unknown founding, but date back to at least M35. Aggressive and noble, the Solar Hawks embody all that is best in the sons of the Khan, and honor their progenitor by either painting a shoulder guard or gauntlet white. As their name suggests, they field an especially large number of airborne assets, regularly deploying whole wings of Storm Talons or Storm Ravens into battle. Destroyers. Established during the Second Founding, Destroyers have a troubled history. Though they have won great victories in the Imperium's name, questions remain regarding the stability of their gene seed. These concerns have grown despite the self-sacrificing heroics the chapter displayed in the wake of the demon rampage throughout the Lorgus subsector. For their part, the Destroyers are concerned only with the next mission. Storm Reapers. There are none more battle-hungry than the Storm Reapers, the first Primaris chapter founded from Yagatai Khan's gene seed. In them runs the purest of blood distilled from the legendary Primarch. The Khan would be proud of his newest sons, for they are wise and noble, but on the attack, they fight with a passion he would recognize as his own. They have claimed the feral world of Yagan for their home planet, the natives of which are known for their savagery. Imperial Fists. The Imperial Fists are one of the most valiant chapters, held as paragons of the principles set down in the Codex Astartes, and exemplars of everything to which a Space Marine is heir. The Imperial Fists stand as the steadfast defenders of the Imperium and the Emperor's unwavering shield. For 10,000 years they have been the bulwark against which the armies of traitors and aliens have shattered. The Defenders of Terra. The The Imperial Fists are the inheritors of the proud traditions of their Primarch Rogel Dorne, a name venerated across the Imperium. History does not record the name of the world on which Dorne was raised, but it is known that he presented himself to his father as the Great Crusade reached the ice hives of Inuit. As a sign of his fealty, Dorne gifted to the Emperor a great mobile battle station whose like had not been seen since the age of technology. Phalanx. The Emperor welcomed his long-lost son and granted him command over the Imperial Fists Legion. The Emperor returned Phalanx to the Primarch, and it became the Legion's fortress monastery from which Dorne led some of the most glorious campaigns of the entire Crusade. The Space Marines of the Imperial Fists had the same uncompromising self-discipline and commitment to order as Dorne himself. The Legion excelled at all aspects of warfare, but showed a particular talent for siegecraft. The Imperial Fists remained the Emperor's Praetorians throughout the Crusade, and when he returned to Terra, Dorne was tasked with designing and building the defenses of the Imperial Palace. Ever since, the Imperial Fists have borne the honorific title of Defenders of Terra, and though they rarely return, their official home world is that of Terra itself. The Imperial Fists' finest hour would come during the dark days of the Horus Heresy, when Dorne and his legion led the defense of the Imperial Palace. The Imperial Fists manned the walls they had raised, holding them against onslaught after onslaught, and whilst his warriors poured bolter fire on the traitors below, Dorne accompanied the Emperor in his last battle aboard Horus's orbiting flagship. Dorne was separated from the Emperor when teleporting, however, and though he fought desperately to reach the rebel War Master's sanctum, he was unable to intercede during the fateful duel that marked the end of the Horus Heresy. The Hand of Dorne. Rogel Dorne is believed to have died whilst fighting a Chaos fleet, and was last reported storming the battleship Sword of Sacrilege. When the Imperial Fists defeated the Chaos fleet, the only trace of their Primarch uncovered by their searches was a single fist. Dorne's skeletal hand was returned to Phalanx where, over the years, it has been scrimshawed with the names of every Imperial Fists chapter master. The Hand of Dorne is the Imperial Fists' holiest icon, and to this day it still inspires those made in the Primarch's image, and serves as a reminder of his sacrifice and commitment. Company structure. After the Horus Heresy, Rogel Dorne was bitter and consumed with a need for vengeance, and he resisted his brother Guilliman's call to break up the legions, nearly starting civil war anew. Yet at the last, Dorne realized his anger was impeding wisdom, and so he relented. When the Imperial Fists emerged from the Second Founding, their adherence to the tenets of Guilliman's tome was matched only by the Ultramarines themselves. When the military might of Terra to guard the Emperor, the Imperial Fists have chosen to remain a fleet-based chapter, operating from Phalanx to bring their strength to bear against the enemies of mankind. So the Imperial Fists are always on the move, bringing the Emperor's justice to every corner of the galaxy, and ensuring the survival of mankind. Dorrans Legacy. Though Rogel Dorne was lost to the Imperium, his legacy remains amongst the strongest of all of the Primarchs. Dorne's final moments were of courage and sacrifice, and this example still drives the Imperial Fists onward to fresh victories. Indeed, if the Imperial Fists have a fault, it is that they continue to strive when others would yield or withdraw. Such unquestioning steadfastness has rescued many a victory from the ashes of defeat, but only at a steep cost in lives. Like their Primarch, the Imperial Fists place great value in accuracy, and its warriors are justly famed for their marksmanship. As a result, the majority of Imperial Fists' battle brothers spend a disproportionate amount of time waging war as a devastator, or in other fire support squads, mastering the art of the long-range kill before progressing into the ranks of close support or battle line squads. Like all Space Marines, the Imperial Fists can execute any aspect of war. However, their penchant for heavy firepower has maintained their preeminent expertise in besieging and defending fortresses, a fact that has brought them into combat with their arch-enemies, the renegade Iron Warriors, many times. For the Imperial Fists, a siege is not simply a military operation. It is the supreme test of courage, skill, and resolve. The ultimate crucible of war. Unsurprisingly, the Imperial Fists' armory boasts more siege-related war gear than most chapters. It is said that their massed Thunderfire cannons appear as an army when they trundle into formation, and a great many of the chapter's warriors are trained to use their ranks of Centurion warsuits. Successor Chapters. In the millennia since the Horus Heresy, dozens of Space Marine chapters have been founded from the gene seed of the Imperial Fists, perhaps more than from any other chapter save only the Ultramarines. United by blood and the honor of their Primarch, the Imperial Fists and their Successor Chapters form a tightly knit brotherhood, one that is strengthened by the centennial Feast of Blades. Together, the manifold ranks of the Sons of Dorne have been instrumental in holding together the Imperium through the very bleakest of times. Hammers of Dorne. Founded in the 41st millennium, the Hammers of Dorne have already proven themselves during hundreds of campaigns, including the bitterly fought Achilles Crusade against the Word Bearers, and the Nightfire Wars against the Tau. The Hammer of Dorne are a stringent codex chapter, and uphold the precepts of Gilliman's scriptures with exacting precision. Invaders. Exemplifying the most stubborn and intractable qualities of their Primarch, the Invaders are a Successor Chapter that is utterly unwilling to accept defeat. Ever since their founding, the Invaders have had a reputation as a daring, if reckless, Space Marine chapter, one that throws itself into battle without hesitation, and emerges victorious in spite of overwhelming odds, and typically at a great cost in lives. They excel at planetary subjugation. Battle Barges. The Imperial Fists are a fleet-based chapter. Aside from Phalanx, their space-borne fortress monastery, the most formidable spacecraft within their fleet are battle barges. A battle barge is a brutal vessel that bears a colossal amount of firepower. Though formidably armed and armored, A battle barge is designed foremost to facilitate a planetary assault, and its primary role is to transport and deliver Space Marines into war. A battle barge can accommodate over 3 full companies and their supporting vehicles. A considerable amount of hull space is given over to launch bays for gunships and dropopods. A battle barge can deploy its entire complement of Space Marines within a few minutes of making orbit, delivering the Angels of Death into the heart of a conflict, whilst providing orbital support to commanders on the ground. Crimson Fists. Until recently, the Crimson Fists chapter was on the edge of extinction. Their fortress monastery was destroyed, and their numbers all but obliterated when Snagrod descended on their chapter planet of Rin's world. Yet the Crimson Fists fought on, bearing the blows of a cruel fate with a stoicism that has become legend. Even amongst the elite ranks of the Space Marines, the Crimson Fists are held as peerless warriors who have been hardened in the most terrible and hopeless battles. Dorne's Successors. A second founding successor of the Imperial Fists, the Crimson Fists share the same patrician bearing as their Primarch. After their creation in the aftermath of the Horus Heresy, they struck out to forge a destiny of their own, and over the next 10 millennia, they have carved their name in the lists of the Imperium's greatest protectors, adhering rigidly to the precepts of the Codex Astartes, and proudly maintaining the honor and legacy of Rogel Dorne. Throughout the chapter's long and glorious history, the Crimson Fists have become noted for their expertise in fighting the many alien monstrosities that assail the Imperium, in particular the Orcs. Though they originated as a fleet-based chapter, the Crimson Fists have become well established as defenders of the Loki sector in Segmentum Tempestus. There are countless Orc empires in the region, and although they were beaten back and held down for many millennia, the Greenskins at last had their day. It was the greatest of the Orc invasions that revealed the true character of the Crimson Fists during the darkest epoch in the chapter's history. No matter the enemy, no matter the odds, the elite Terminator squads of the Crimson Fists stand resolute in the face of their foes, guns thundering and voices raised in booming oaths to Dorne and the Emperor. The Rin's World Incident. Following the Crimson Fists' successes during the Voltigern Crusade, the High Lords of Terra granted the chapter full feudal rights to Rin's world. Operating from their newly built fortress monastery, the Crimson Fists launched a brutal campaign that shattered the Orc forces across the Loki sector, fracturing the powerful empires into hundreds of desperate rival warbands that lacked the power to threaten the sector. In the closing stages of the 41st millennium, the Orc warlord Snagrod, arch-arsonist of Caradon, launched a massive war that united the warring factions bordering the Loki sector. Pedro Cantor, the chapter master of the Crimson Fists, recalled all of his forces to Ren's world in preparation for a counterattack. But no sooner had the companies assembled than Snagrod reached the Ren system. The chapter's orbital defenses annihilated the initial waves of Orc rocks, cruisers, and bomber waves. Then, Tragedy struck when one of the planet's missile guidance systems suffered a catastrophic failure, and a single plasma warhead crashed into the Crimson Fists' own fortress monastery. Somehow, the missile penetrated the fortress monastery's void shields and armored walls to detonate right in the heart of the structure's vast and ancient arsenal. The fortress monastery and the mountain upon which it stood were both atomized in a heartbeat. 6 full companies, over half the entire chapter, were slain in an instant. Only a handful of Space Marines who, by chance, had been manning the mountain's outermost perimeter defenses, including Chapter Master Condor, escaped the full brunt of the devastating explosion. Those few survivors managed to battle across the planet through overwhelming numbers of orcs to reach the world's besieged capital, New Rin City. There, they reunited with the battered remnants of the chapter's few remaining companies, who were both shocked and buoyed to find their chapter master yet lived. The siege of New Rin City itself was to grind on for 18 months, but through the inspired leadership of Pedro Condor, and with the heroic sacrifice of scores of Crimson Fists, the Imperium won out against impossible odds. Wave upon wave of orcs crashed against Condor's lines, but the Space Marines never gave in to despair. Countless greenskins were brought down amongst a chorus of detonating bolt rounds, flesh-ripping flak explosions, and roaring firestorms of promethium. When the Crimson Fists ran out of ammunition, the orcs fell instead beneath chain blades, combat knives, and ceramite-clad fists. The greenskins hacked and slew as best they could, but still the Crimson Fists held firm. In the face of such warriors as the defenders of New Rin City, Snagrod's orcs could not prevail. The greenskins were finally repulsed from Rin's world, but the damage had been done. We have been wounded sorely, yet still we stand with fire in our hearts. Let them think us beaten. We shall teach them otherwise. Pedro Condor, Chapter Master of the Crimson Fists. Bloodied but unbowed. Following the losses of the Rin's World campaign, the Crimson Fists found themselves clinging precariously to existence. The Crimson Fists' future lay with a handful of Space Marines, their lives to be expended for greater rewards than the salving of personal pride or the pursuit of vengeance, even against the despised race of orcs who brought the chapter to its knees. The Crimson Fists began recruiting additional brethren from Rin's world and across the entire Loki sector, but the process could not be rushed. Further Xenos attacks, the coming of the Great Rift, and the resultant waves of demon invasions were met with the same stern resolve. One by one the battered companies saw their numbers dwindle, but still they fought on. When the Indomitus Crusade entered orbit, they brought more than just reinforcements to the Crimson Fists. They brought a future. From Archmagos Call's Freighter Hulk, a new generation of Crimson Fists joined the fray. Because we have to sell more Primaris Marines. The gauntlet stayed red. Stained red, although I guess it has stayed red. The Crimson Fists have an extensive calendar of sacred days to honor the Emperor and the Primarch. Amongst these are the Day of Foundation, the Feast of Blades, and the Festival of the Bloodied Fist, in which a number of the chapter's promising scouts undergo their final trials before becoming a full battle brother. The last of these trials requires the aspirant to travel to the death world of Blackwater and kill a barb dragon with their bare hands. Those that succeed submerge their left fist into the blood of their prey, symbolizing their right to wear the crimson gauntlet that is the chapter's namesake. Only when a battle brother is promoted to the first company will he earn the honor of painting his right gauntlet red as well. A new sacred day has been added to the Crimson Fists traditions, the Day of Renewal, marking when the chapter and its gene banks were unexpectedly replenished by the Indomitus Crusade. The Crimson Fists renew their vow on this day to repay their debt to Robert Gilliman. And with that, we are going to bring this video to a close. As you could probably tell, I'm getting a little tired and I started tripping over myself. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you all next time. Bye-bye.